Mind Fitness Doctor, medicine for your body, mind and soul, mindfulness-based yoga, coaching and therapy.
I'm going to invite us to just settle in to kind of bring ourselves into the present moment. So if you can find a comfortable position where your feet are flat on the floor. And closing your eyes if that's comfortable for you. If not, then just lowering your eyes. Just taking a couple of deep breaths. And on the exhale, really trying to let go of anything that's on your mind that you're bringing in here with you, any to-do list or anything that happened today or that you're thinking about is going to happen today. Just seeing if on those exhales, you can just let that go, let your body relax. Noticing how it feels to be seated with the weight of your body on the chair. Feeling into the soles of the feet, noticing any sensations there. And on your next exhale, as you breathe out, imagine that from the bottom of your feet extends roots deep into the ground. So with each out breath, you're pushing those roots deeper into the ground. Really feeling that connection to the earth, that solidity beneath your feet. And the really cool thing about this space that we're holding right now together is that we are from all over the world, all across the United States, all the way to New Zealand, this group of people here. And so imagine, if you will, our roots, all of our roots coming together beneath the ground, just as tree roots intertwine and are interconnected. And though we are continents away, we're still connected to each other. And so with your in-breath now, breathing in that connection, that belonging in this group, and allowing it to nourish your body. And then just letting go of that visualization, coming back into your full attention, your full awareness, back to the sounds in the room, the temperature of the room you're in, your feet, the sensations of your feet on the floor, the weight of your body on the chair. And when you're ready, opening your eyes, lifting your gaze, coming back to this screen in front of you. Thank you for trying that out with us. And I am going to get us into our presentation. So first, I'll let Robin introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Robin. I'm really happy to meet you guys all today. Thank you for coming to this workshop on taking care for caregiving. And I thought that I would introduce myself by talking about my caregiving roles. So I am a mother of 3 children, 2 teenagers and a 9-year-old. I'm a mother to 3 fur babies. So 2 Labradors and a cat. I am a wife to Stu, who is a manager of a construction company. I am also a doctor, and so I look after, or have looked after, mums and babies when they are pregnant, when the mums are pregnant up until their babies are a year old, so a perinatal psychiatrist. And as my children have got older, I have had other caregiving roles, such as I've just been away to underwater hockey tournament with my children. So I was caregiving for 10 teenagers in a tournament. So just thought that that kind of illustrates that a lot of us have many caregiving roles in our lives. And I have always been interested in this, like in my profession as a doctor, about who really cares for the carers. I guess that started for me when I was a medical student and I had a boyfriend who was a first-year house surgeon who actually took his own life because of the pressures of that role. And ever since then, I have been interested in how we care for the carers. And myself, I have experienced burnout twice in my life. And the first time when my 14-year-old was a baby, and I found yoga at that time, and mindfulness and meditation. And then the second time was a few years ago. So I found self-care practices 14 years ago, but 3 or 4 years ago, I found mindful self-compassion, which is more about micro self-care practices that you can actually do in the moment when you're caregiving for someone else. So all of those other self-care practices were really good for me, but they took me out of the moment, whereas these ones I have found really valuable in my own life to care for myself and those that I care for. So thank you for coming along today. It's Rachel's turn now.
Yeah, so I am Rachel, and I live in North Carolina, and I am a mom to 2 boys, 4 and 6 years old, and I also have fur babies. I have 4 fur babies, and you might hear some water in the background, but those are fish. But I do not claim care for those. And I've been a social worker and worked in public education and with public schools for my career. And so I've been in also these various caregiving roles. And I came to mindful self-compassion. Mindfulness came into my life before, and it helped me to really be a lot less reactive in my life, and to people around me. And I came to mindful self-compassion though after I had a late-term miscarriage of my daughter, and it was really heartbreaking. And I was able to grieve, but I had a really hard time healing. And so that is when I found mindful self-compassion, and it really did help me to be able to be there for myself in those really hard times. And as a result of continuing to practice, I just have a lot more compassion and love to give to my friends and family. And I feel like it's got to be somewhat convincing because I have my mom and my sister-in-law on this call. So they've seen some change. So I'm really excited that everybody is here and we get to share this with you.
Yeah.
So this is what we're going to cover today. I'm going to go over this wise caregiving hand and foot model that I find really just a really cool way of looking at caregiving and caregiver burnout and fatigue. And then we're going to go over what is self-compassion, try out a couple things, and Robin has some really awesome insight to share about the research and like the mechanics of why self-compassion works. So what is wise caregiving? Okay, so this is it's called the wise, or the circle and foot model of wise caregiving. It was developed by a man named Jonathan Prescott. And so my screen is over here. That's why you're going to see me looking over here, but I'm going to use my mouse to explain some things in this model. This circle represents whatever you are giving care to. So it could be a child, a parent, a sibling, it could be a friend, it could be a pet, whatever, whomever it is you are giving care for. And then these feet represent you. And this is where I'm going to go into some explaining. I'm going to start down here in this bottom left quadrant with swept away. And what this means is that, say this is, I'm going to just as an example, go with my dog. I have a dog that's just over a year old, a puppy, has really caused me a lot of grief in this last year. And so he's a good example. But so like, say this is my dog that I'm caring for, the circle. Well, I have put, this is me. I am all in. All of my energy, all of my giving is going toward that dog, toward caring for that dog. And this is when we get swept away in our caregiving role. We're giving all to them and none for us. And so what that leads to then is burnout. Okay, so maybe if it's a dog, it might look like me, this is what I did actually. I put the dog in doggy training boarding for 2 weeks. I needed that break from him. So that's when we say, I can't do anymore. I'm done. I'm walking away. I need some time away. And in this place, like we probably feel guilty, maybe some shame and stuff, because we actually we're all caregivers. We're natural caregivers. We want to be caring. And this feels like the opposite of that when we're at burnout. And then there's boundary setting, like, okay, like for my dog, okay, I missed you. Like, I want to do this. Like, we need to do this. We're going to find this balance with each other. So this is me facing back to that role of caregiving for the dog. And, but I'm like, I think I want to do this. I'm like looking in, ready to go in, but what do I need to be able to do this so I stay healthy and you stay, like we have this relationship where I'm giving you some, I'm also giving me some. And when you find that, that's what skillful connection is. So you have one foot that is caregiving. Part of you is meeting that other person's need, really giving them what they need and helping. But meanwhile, you have one foot still outside of that circle. And that is still you giving yourself what you need. So you're balanced. And sometimes that you're going to have to put more weight on one foot than the other. Sometimes you have to bear more weight on that foot that's in the circle and give more. And sometimes you need more of a breather and you need to put more weight on your back foot, but you're able to maintain one foot in, one foot out. Let me go right back up. We're going to do a little exercise about why maybe we tend to be here. We tend to go here. And we have a hard time being here. Okay, so I forgot to tell you this, to bring pen and paper. If you have it, that's great. If you don't, you can just do this in your mind. You can just picture it. But if you have a pen and paper, I'm going to lead you through this short little exercise. So it's a visualization. So the reason I always invite you to close your eyes is just because we get so much stimulation through our eyes. It's hard to concentrate then on other things. So if it feels comfortable to you, then just closing your eyes while I guide you through thinking about this experience. So first, just take a deep breath. So into this moment. Okay, so now I'll invite you to think of a time, or think of maybe some various times when a friend or a relative, someone whom you care about, experienced a situation that left them feeling inadequate or like they had failed. For example, maybe they said something that they regretted, or they did something that they wish they wouldn't have done. How do you typically respond to people you care about in such situations? What do you say to them? What tone of voice do you use? What sorts of nonverbal gestures do you use? What's your message you're communicating to them? And then when you're ready, just taking a moment to write down how you would treat your friend and or someone you cared about in that situation, what you would say, how you'd say it. Now, I'm going to ask you to go back inward, back inside your mind, and imagining various times when you, maybe as a caregiver, as you're in your roles as caregiver, when you felt inadequate or like you had failed. Thinking about an instance or various instances. How do you typically respond to yourself in those situations? What do you say to yourself? What tone do you use? What message do you send to yourself? I'm going to take a moment to write that down. And for anyone who wishes to unmute and share, then you're more than welcome to do that, or enter into the chat. I'm curious if anyone noticed a difference in how you talk to your loved ones, towards someone you care about, versus how you talk to yourself when you make a mistake or you mess up or feel inadequate. Did you notice a difference in how you, in the first scenario and the second scenario?
So this is exactly what I needed when I went through my divorce years ago, because I learned that I am very accepting and encouraging and comforting to others, but that stopped at my own door. I expected myself to be perfect, to do for everyone, to push away my needs, and to be hard on myself, and to harbor that regret or something. And I had to get to this mindful spot where I challenged those negative voices and told myself that I needed to be as kind to myself as I would be to my friend.
Mm. Thank you, Sylvia. Yeah, so you have had this, you made this discovery in a really, I'm so sorry, in like such a painful way.
Yeah, it was a long process, but yeah, if I could have sped it up, which is hard to do, but
and I wonder if other people had a similar experience with Sylvia, not the divorce experience, but the experience of discovering that, oh, I am so hard on myself. This is not how I would be toward a good friend. Did anyone have that experience, like where you're a little bit harder on yourself? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Always.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Lindsay.
Oh, I was just going to say I'm always my worst critic. So any mistakes, misjudgment, and hindsight's always 20/20. So you can just completely pick any situation apart where you maybe didn't respond. I mean, especially like for me, struggles right now are with parenting two very different children. And I have to stop and get myself together. And sometimes, a situation where it's easy to react quickly and, be irritated or say something where that's not what that child needs at that time. And then I end up, being hard on myself. Like, you're not a very good mom. You didn't do that right. What's wrong with you? You know better. Oh, I can't hear you, Rachel. I think you're on mute.
I muted myself. Sorry. Thank you, Lindsay, for sharing that. And Terry, I'll have you share. I wanted to just say, Lindsay, I call that the 2 arrows effect, which is the first arrow comes, something's happening with your kids. It's like really rattling your nerves, and then you yell or you snap, and like that's the first arrow is like the bad thing that's happening, the negative thing that makes you feel bad, and then you snap and you do something that you regret, and that's the second arrow, and so you're feeling doubly bad. And yes, we have all been there, and it is really hard.
I was going to say something pretty similar, kind of a combination of what Lindsay and Sylvia said, is that one of the things I've had to realize as navigating divorce and co-parenting is that parenting my daughter was different because I was married than parenting my son is now that I'm divorced. And also they're 2 very different children. And I have had to realize that I have to be compassionate with myself and acknowledge that I make mistakes, but that it doesn't make me a bad mom. It just makes me human.
Yeah, thank you. You have actually, the 3 of you, like everyone who spoke, you spoke to the 3 components of self-compassion. So before, don't want to get ahead of myself yet, I do. But so self-compassion is just merely treating yourself like you would when you're hurting, when you're in pain, like you would a beloved child or a good friend. And we all most of us find in that exercise that we tend to be a lot harder on ourselves and not so compassionate toward ourselves when we're in those really and when we're in a moment of struggle. And the research shows actually like 78% of people are kinder to others than they are to themselves. And it's not that those 12% are kinder to themselves than they are to others. I think most of that 12% is that they say, well, I'm just as kind to myself as I am to others. There might be a couple percent in there where they say, no, I'm much kinder to myself. And so there are these three components of self-compassion that we practice in mindful self-compassion. And I'm going to lead you through another exercise. So I'm going to stand up. You don't have to stand up. I'm going to stand up so you can see me. So these are called, so the three components of self-compassion are mindfulness, common humanity, and self-kindness. So I want to teach these through an exercise. So if you will, just hold out your hands like this and make really tight fists. And notice, like, what's this like? Like, what's this like in your body? What's it feel like in your breath? What's it feel like in your head? It's probably like, it's really tense. The breath is shortened. This is resistance. This is like, I do not want this to be this way right now. And then if you release, open your hands. What's that like? As I opened my hands, I took a huge exhale. Notice in your body, like what's happening in your body as your hands are released. And this is mindfulness. It's acceptance that this moment sucks, that yeah, this sucky thing is happening right now. But and it's also letting it be here so I can feel it and get through it rather than pushing it away and avoiding and resisting, wishing it wasn't here. I say the only way to it is through it. So that's mindfulness. Only you have to experience it to get to the other side with peace and joy. And so then if you go like this, you spread your arms out wide. This is like, I find it's like a big hug. And this is common humanity. This is, we have all felt this way. We all feel this way at some point. I am not alone in this. I have a community around me. I'm not alone. And so then this is the third component, which if you put your hands over your heart, noticing what this feels like. This is like soothing, loving, warm. Like I feel the warmth of my chest on my cold hands, my cold fingers. And this is activating actually a physiological response of being comforted. It's like what we do for our babies when they're crying, we pick them up and we comfort them. So that's what we're doing for ourselves. That's the third component of self-compassion, is that self-kindness. And we don't do this practice to make the pain go away. We can't make the pain go away. There is no way to make pain go away. There are ways to allow it to be here and to respond to it in ways that make it less powerful. And eventually, like if you have physical pain, like you have an achy knee, you can't make that pain go away. You can do things to help ease it. And so this is a way to kind of find ways to ease the pain or to ease your relationship with the pain. But same works with emotional pain. So with that said, I am going to see how this works. We're going to try an experiment, which is for me first to pull up the link to share with you. Can you, Robin, can you get it the link in pretty easily? Oh, no, you can't get it. Never mind. Because you don't have the PowerPoint. Okay. I would love to invite you to click on this link. It's going to take you to a Google form and ask you about some beliefs about mindful or about self-compassion. And while you're doing that, I'm going to pull up the results. And if it doesn't work, then just holler and let me know. And just don't spend a long time on any one question. Just, whatever, like your first instinct. Like it says, self-compassion is a form of self-pity. Strongly disagree to strongly agree. Just go with your first instinct.
Rachel,
Yes.
I can't bring that up. Was it you? Oh, I found it. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Rachel, if you can show the address again, I can't, I'm on the work computer, it won't let me in there.
Oh.
So I'm gonna try to get it on my phone, but I gotta type it in.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat again. Can you access the chat, Sylvia?
Oh yeah, I got it. Let's see.
Robin, are you looking at the survey? Do I have the survey up on the shared screen? Is that what you're seeing right now?
Yeah, I can see the survey, but not the
Okay.
results. You did have the results. There's the responses. Yeah.
I'm trying to wait so I don't skew anybody's reports.
Good on you.
Oh, I didn't get to the yin and yang of self-compassion, but you have to take our class to get there.
Yeah.
We have a lot more to teach you. I'm just going to go ahead and start sharing. We have 7. Mama, are you still filling it out? You got to unmute yourself.
Okay, I can't, Rachel, I'm sorry, I can't. I click on what I want it to be and it doesn't show up.
Okay, that's okay. It's not a mandatory survey by any means. We're
Okay.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about it. And Robin is taking over at this point, and so I'll just point out as we go through the results. I guess it'd be easiest if I do that since I have the scrolling power.
Yep.
One over here is strongly disagree, and 5 is strongly agree. So self-compassion is a form of self-pity. You can see 5 people said strongly disagree. 2 were on the, kind of, 3 were in the middle. 1 was in the middle, and 2 is kind of in between there. Self-compassion is weak. We have 5 at strongly disagree, and then that's 0 at strongly agree, but we have agree right here. Self-compassion is selfish, which is 6. Y'all are on the disagree scale of this. And self-compassion is self-indulgent. So this one is a little bit more mixed. Self-compassion is a form of making excuses. So we have there's a spread on that one too. And then self-compassion undermines motivation. So also a spread on this. And can you see the PowerPoint, Robin? Yeah. Okay. Oh, you're muted too.
I'm muted as well. So I'm pretty impressed. I think we've got a few people that are seeing the benefits of practicing self-compassion, because usually those results are skewed the other way, aren't they, Rachel? Yeah. So we're just going to talk about the research around that. So if we go through each of the what we said, so the first thing is that self-compassion is a form of self-pity, and actually research shows that people are less likely to get caught into, because of the mindfulness part of self-compassion, giving ourselves kindness about how we're feeling, we're less likely to get hooked into those negative thoughts that cause us to ruminate and get caught down the rabbit holes. So we are more likely to not be in that form of self-pity, and we're more likely to be self-compassionate to ourselves and to others. So it decreases that rumination. We've got decreased levels of stress and anxiety because of that rumination. We have increased abilities and resilience to cope with things because of that. As you can see from some of the research in front of you. The second one is that people believe it is selfish, and I will go into explaining about mirror neurons and why self-compassion works. But what research has shown is that people are actually able to give more. When they give to themselves, they're able to give out more to other people, and I'll explain the neuroscience behind why that happens. So in fact, it's not selfish at all. It's very compassionate and sowing seeds of compassion throughout the world. You're more likely to be able to care for others. And the self-indulgent part of it, actually, we're more likely to motivate ourselves to make changes in our lives. So people make changes around things like difficulties with alcohol or diet or exercise because they access that in a coach, so they're able to talk to themselves in a kinder way and not put themselves down all the time and go down that rabbit hole, as we talked about before. And what was the next one? It's a form of making excuses. So basically what we do is that when we criticize ourselves and get that inner critic, we're more likely to beat up on ourselves and to not forgive ourselves for making mistakes. And so it's not, and that's more likely to cause shame, and that second arrow that Rachel was talking about. And so actually we all make mistakes. It's about forgiving ourselves for making those mistakes, seeing that as part of being human and part of humanity, and then motivating ourselves to get up. I think my husband, when I failed a very important psychiatry exam, my husband came in and said Winston Churchill's quote about success is going from failure to failure without lack of enthusiasm. And I think that kind of speaks to the last thing that people say about how it undermines motivation. Actually, it increases motivation in that respect, to give myself compassion for failing an exam that was really important, and to motivate myself to keep on going and to put it into perspective. I've just been at an underwater hockey tournament. Underwater hockey, I know it's quite a different concept, with my daughter and the kids around there, and it was really important about talking about that growth mindset with them about if they lost a game, it wasn't the end of the world, to be kind to themselves and to just focus on the next game, to motivate themselves with that inner kind voice, and to not get so dejected by perceived failures or perceived ways of the fact that they had not done as they had thought that they may do. So that's the research that you're seeing in front of you, that it actually, we've gone through it, that it decreases stress. Actually, the really amazing thing is it's not just about your mental health, it's also about your physical health. Autoimmune problems decreases, inflammation, heart, anything that you can really think of. The research is there. So basically it's that kind of epigenetic model about how everything is interrelated. And our relationships improve because we are practicing that kindness towards ourselves. We're not beating up on ourselves, and we're able to do that more to our children. Like, we're able to become less reactive in our caregiving roles, and we're able to have more of that battery filled, so that we're able to engage with our children, engage with the people that we're working with in a more compassionate way, because our tanks are more filled, that we are kinder to ourselves. We're not feeling that battery depletion that Rachel was talking about at the start. So it actually improves our relationships because we're including ourselves in that caregiving circle. And I'll explain that, the neuroscience behind that, next as well, and the resilience that makes us far more resilient. So the neuroscience, it's about the pain of connection. So basically, what we have is we have these brain cells in our brains called mirror neurons. So when we see other people in pain or distress or whatever emotion that they're experiencing, we experience ourselves, and that's what we experience as empathy. And so when I was doing this workshop with somebody else, some other people, midwives, they kind of said that they'd made that observation that they're only as happy as their unhappiest child. So it kind of makes sense that we are always feeling the feelings of the people that we are caring about. And so what happens if the people that we are caring about are in pain, it activates our pain centers and will activate our flight or fight nervous system, so our sympathetic nervous system. So it increases our cortisol, it increases our adrenaline and noradrenaline. And so if we are constantly around that or caring for people that are like that, and we're naturally, like for myself and my role, caring for mums and babies, I'm naturally really empathetic person, then we can start to experience what we call that vicarious traumatization because of what we're seeing, and that caregiver fatigue. So that kind of explains that people have said that have talked about compassion fatigue, but it's actually empathy fatigue through our mirror neurons. And how self-compassion can help, so the next slide please, Rachel, is that what we can do is that we can provide self-care practices in the moment to care for ourselves. So what happens is that we acknowledge that we are actually feeling this empathetic distress. So for example, my daughter, just from the last weekend, got concussed. She was playing a game with a whole lot of big boys in an open team. It was a really important game that some selectors were watching to select for the New Zealand representative team. She got concussed. She had to get out. It was really disappointing and distressing from her from a wide variety of reasons. I felt her pain in that moment, and so it wasn't very helpful for her, for me to feel her pain. So it was helpful, but what I needed to do in that situation was to say to myself that the mindfulness, self-compassion, this is really hard. It's really hard for both of us. And other people in this situation would find this really hard as well. So that's the common humanity part of it. And then asking myself, what do I need? How can I be kind to myself in this situation? And so what happens when we do that is we activate that calming nervous system. So the research shows that we bring on board the parasympathetic nervous system just by being calm to ourselves in that situation. So just as we were going to get the first aid for her when she was getting concussion, I was giving myself kindness, calmness, some soothing touch, so that I could bring on board that calming nervous system. And so then what actually happens is those mirror neurons go both ways. So I feel her pain, and then if I calm myself and am kind to myself, she feels my calm. And so that's what happens. I'm sure you have all been in situations. I have been in, definitely working in teams and health where there's a crisis going on, and then everyone feels a little bit of that parallel process of that calmness. And so that kind of explains why giving ourselves that kindness, that micro moments of self-kindness, the neuroscience behind it, but also why it's not self-indulgent. So actually by managing our own emotions, then we start to affect other people around us. And so we do actually start to spread those seeds of compassion and kindness outwards by being kind to ourselves inwards. And I'm really like the research behind it is just so amazing about that. Is there anybody that has any questions about that at the moment? If you're wanting to put that in the chat, that's okay. Or any what we call light bulb moments or aha moments. For me, when I realized the research behind it, it was just so motivating for me to start doing that's the self-compassion and practicing it and reminding myself to practice those three components. If no one has any questions about that, you can put it in the chat box if you want to. Does that make sense to you about why it works and the neuroscience behind it? Yeah. So I guess we wanted to finish with a short practice that kind of illustrates this. So we'll come back to the screen. So the science is super interesting. Yeah, so interesting. Yeah. Yeah, definitely hard to do when your children are involved. Yes, totally hard to do. And yeah, I really like, there's lots of different definitions of mindfulness, but one that I really like is just the what the Buddha said about mindfulness is remembering. So just remembering to take a pause and bring ourselves back into the present moment and just trying to do it. Like, we're going to muck up, definitely, even in practicing self-compassion. We're going to get on that train of our thoughts, and we're going to react and shout at our children. And the thing about self-compassion is that it just gives us that opportunity to keep on practicing it over and over again. Mind fitness, really. So I call myself the mind fitness doctor, because we've got to practice this just like physical fitness. It's not something that comes just naturally, and we go through different phases or seasons of our life when it's easier to practice and when it's not so easy to practice. So yeah. Right. So yeah, so if we do you want to put on the last slide, Rach? I'm just going to do a little practice. I love that. Rachel and I were just saying the last slide, we love that picture of that heart with the two children in there. It's about how we can become our own best friend, like cuddling ourselves with self-compassion, but also how it helps us be a good friend to other people. And so I'm just going to finish with a short practice, and maybe inviting you to think about a caregiving situation, someone that you're caring for. As was pointed out before, sometimes our children are not a good place to start and practice. So maybe thinking of a caregiving situation where it's like causing maybe that empathetic distress, that mild to moderate amount. So just finding a comfortable place for yourself, position. When we're practicing these mindful self-compassion practices, it's absolutely fine. You're always in choice. If you're wanting to lie on the floor, you can lie on the floor. If you're wanting to sit in a seated meditation position, that's fine, or comfortable position on a chair. You are always in choice. And while you're here, maybe closing your eyes, and then taking a few deep breaths, if that is accessible to you. Just wanting to bring ourselves and anchor ourselves into the present moment. So if your breath is not accessible to you today, you can use your other senses to bring you right here, right now, your sensations. You may use sound or smell or taste. But if your breath is accessible to you, just bringing yourself to that sensation of that breath. And maybe offering yourself some supportive touch. So you may want to put a hand on the heart, hand on your head, totally optional, knowing that this brings on board our calming nervous system. And then bringing to mind that caregiving situation. It may be a situation where You may be feeling a little bit exhausted or frustrated. Perhaps not choosing your children, or if you have chosen your children, maybe a situation that's not at the extreme level of frustration. So visualizing that situation clearly in your mind, and then scanning your body and perhaps feeling the struggle within your own body, that kind of empathetic distress. You may feel it in your heart, your tummy, your back. That mindfulness of their distress. Now, please listen carefully to these words, letting them gently roll through your mind. Everyone is on their own life journey. I am not the cause of this person's suffering, nor is it entirely within my power to make it go away, even though I wish I could. Moments like these are difficult to bear, yet I may still try to help if I can. And then having that awareness of that stress that you may be carrying in your body. Inhaling fully and deeply, and bringing in those kind words that you would perhaps say to a friend, that compassion, inhaling it into yourself and filling every cell within your body with compassion. Letting yourself be soothed deeply by giving yourself the compassion that you need. And then as you exhale, sending the compassion out to the person that you are caring for, that you have thought about in this situation. Continue breathing compassion in and out. Just allowing your body to find its own natural rhythm. Letting your body breathe itself. One for me, one for you. In for me, out for you. Occasionally scanning your inner landscape, Feeling the point of that distress and responding by inhaling compassion for yourself. And then exhaling for others. You may want to inhale 2 for yourself, 1 for the other. Noticing if anyone needs that extra compassion. Noticing how your body is caressed from the inside as you breathe. And just letting yourself float on an ocean of compassion. A limitless ocean that embraces all suffering. And then listening to these words again. Everyone is on their own life journey. I am not the cause of this person's suffering, nor is it entirely within my power to make it go away, even though I wish I could. Moments like these can be difficult to bear, yet I may still try to help if I can. And then letting go of the practice and allowing yourself to be exactly as you are in this moment. And then when you are ready and in your own time, no hurries, gently opening your eyes and bringing yourself back into your room and back in to the screen, back into this workshop. So I'm just curious, you may want to put it on the in the chat about how you found that practice. Over the years, I found that practice very soothing in the moment. Sometimes I have 5 breaths for myself and 1 breath for someone else, and sometimes the ratio is reversed. But just in situations where perhaps I perceive there may be a little bit of conflict or a little bit of mother drama, as there is with sporting teams, I use it. Yeah, that was very calming. Thank you.
Anna, I know it's also time for my dogs to start having their wrestling moment, so it might get a little loud. But I remember when I first started practicing mindfulness and these practices, it was really challenging for me. And so if that was your experience too, then that's totally fine. That's totally normal. Now though, like after you practice, one of the really, Anna was asking, like, what are some of the micro self-care practices that you can do in the moment? And this is actually one of them. so this was a formal practice, and so that you can do it in the moment when you need it. I was visualizing a scenario that is currently going on for me, which is my 4-year-old son likes to like hop on my head, jump on my head at nighttime when it's time to go to sleep, and he's like really rambunctious. And so I was practicing in my mind just now, in my body, how I'm going to be in that situation when it happens tonight. And so I'll bring that practice into that moment. Yes, asking for a friend. Thanks, Nikki. Thanks for putting it out there. Yes, and it is normal. And what your body is saying, what happens is this is not how we're conditioned. And, we're a go, 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 let's get it done culture. And this is like an opportunity to stop and rest and be, and it's in your body and your mind is like, oh. And when I first started practicing mindfulness in the class, I would fall asleep all the time. And the teacher would just say, you fall asleep because you need sleep. She's like, you have a 1 and a 2-year-old at home. You just need sleep.
I love your fur babies, Rachel. My fur babies do the same. So we're just going to use this opportunity to talk about, if you are interested in what we've covered in this workshop, about how we can bring that kindness to ourselves and then spread those seeds of kindness and compassion to others around us. That we are going to be, Rachel and I are going to be teaching a 9-week mindful self-compassion class starting in August. So we have done the mindful self-compassion meditation teacher training through the Centre for Mindful Self-Compassion. This 8-week course is evidence-based. It's been thoroughly researched. So it's lots of, if you're wanting to go to the Centre for Mindful Self-Compassion page, you can see all of the results and stuff about the research behind that. And so we're starting for the US on August the 2nd, finishing on the 27th, and it'll be 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. And for New Zealand, it will be August the 3rd. So I think it's Mondays for you, Rach, and Tuesdays for me. And then we have to kind of look at a daylight saving change as well. So on the 28th, which is the last class, it will be from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. New Zealand time. And Rachel's got the to register. Maybe she can pop it into the chat as well now, but also, the compassion guide is where you can go to register for this course.
I am going to pop in the chat, but cool. I just want to put an advance warning out there that I am doing some renovations on my website, and the URL might change. And so if you come to this later and it doesn't work, then that is why. You just need to go to the website compassionguide.com then instead of the book online. And it'll be much more intuitive, the guidance through the. Mm-hmm.
And I'll just stop the recording now, so that if people want to ask questions, that they don't want, that level of privacy. So I'll just stop that now. So thank you all of those that have watched the replay of this that couldn't make it today. Namaste and go well. And I'll just stop that.